They work in two different professions, but they have one thing in common: weather expertise. Steve Piltz with the National Weather Service in Tulsa and Sid Sperry with the Oklahoma Association of Electric Cooperatives are talking about the winter blast that is covering the state.
So instead of shifting right to the I-44 corridor, we're actually probably shifting north of the I-44 corridor.
Yeah, we'll probably get the right straddle into it and north of it some. Yeah,
Okay.
You're right.
The two of them, with the assistance from the Oklahoma Climatological Survey, have designed an index that measures an oncoming ice storm severity.
Well, Steve and I first developed the index in January of 2007. In fact, it was just ahead of a pretty significant ice storm in January of 07, about a week to 10 days ahead. And so since that time, we've had about 5 ice storms that we've had a chance to validate the index.
Here's how it works. The index looks at 3 key parameters: ice accumulation, wind speed, and temperatures.
The temperatures are key because if temperatures are at 32 degrees or less and we have ice building up on our power line conductor, then we want to know how long it may stay on the conductor. If it goes above 32 degrees, say in the 34, 35 degree range, the ice will start melting, fall off the conductor, may not cause a problem then. But as long as it stays on the conductor and we have wind loading on the conductor, then it's going to be a problem and cause a lot of problems for electric utilities with overhead lines.
And the index categorizes that information in 5 levels, 1 being the least amount of damage expected and 5 having the highest potential for having large amounts of infrastructure damage.
What we find is that even with small amounts of ice, 1/10 of an inch of ice, which doesn't sound like much, up to 1/4 of an inch of ice, if enough wind loading is put on that same conductor, the overhead power lines, you can reach a level 3 type of damage, which could be outages lasting 1 to 2 days if that particular event would happen. But the higher, the more ice that you get in different amounts of wind, if applied, roll out the different levels of damage that you could anticipate happening.
The scene from the ice storm in 2007 was a Category 5 in much of the state. For this particular storm, you can see how these early models show black covering some regions. That means those areas are also considered a Category 5, which has the potential for power outages up to 2 weeks.
We're talking hundreds, if potentially thousands of utility poles might go down during this storm. Depending upon the winds and the amount of ice, we could have a lot of conductor damage, we could have a lot of cross-arm damage. So in some areas that the forecasters are looking at now, their forecasts, when rolled into our index, we have some what we call level 5, which is the highest level of damage that's possible on our index.
And all of this is determined days before a storm actually hits. The purpose of using this index is when devastating storms like those we've seen in the past come to Oklahoma, we'll know how long we might be without power or transportation.
The key to the index is to use it as a preparedness tool. That's what we hope utilities, that's what we hope overhead or people that have communication lines like TV cable companies and other entities that have overhead exposed lines. Departments of transportation are actually using the index to know where to send sand crews to lay down a coat of sand maybe in ice-prone areas.
And for the rest of us, we now have another way to know how we can prepare better for a disaster. For the Oklahoma News Report, I'm Angela Rosecrans.